You've heard of the expression ambulance chaser. That's a lawyer who shows up as soon as he can after an accident to find the victim or somebody who can be made to feel like a victim so that that lawyer can sue the supposed perpetrator for big money. Such a lawyer is called an ambulance chaser. There are authors that do similar things. They show up after a catastrophe and try to spin a yarn for the sake of selling a book or getting publicity for themselves. James H. Fetzer showed up after 9/11, and those of you who have looked at the theories put forth by the 9/11 Truth Movement are very familiar with the name James H. Fetzer. Fetzer has a background, it turns out, and he is the author or the editor of this book. What do you find in this book? Well, I only looked at 2 pages. I'm about to read to you what I found in those 2 pages as soon as I find my glasses. One day in mid-1990s, I was driving toward my office in West LA. My office consists of about 3 rooms and contains about 40 filing cabinets containing documents pertaining to the JFK assassination. It also contains a series of metal shelves with some rather valuable 35mm prints and negatives that I personally made of the Zapruder film. Now, those of you who are familiar with the assassination of JFK know that an amateur photographer by the name of Zapruder happened to be in the right place and shot footage of the president as he was hit by bullets. And so people have become familiar with the name Zapruder film, which is the subject of much of this essay. Now, I'm reading this to show you an example of what appears in this book, edited by James Fetzer, who is famous as a result of his planting of doubts, innuendo, what-ifs, conspiracies regarding 9/11. It turns out he did the same thing in regard to the assassination of JFK. Now, if the assassination of JFK was carried out by communist agents, if it was an assassination by communist agents, they might want to muddy the waters and create confusion by hiring people, frankly, to create doubt and suspicion, and perhaps point suspicion away from the real perpetrators and toward some other entity. Continuing with this article, he writes, I don't particularly care to work in my office. I much prefer the solitude of the UCLA library or a corner of one of several Starbucks that I like to visit, but regular visits are necessary to the office to pick up mail, check the fax machine, and so forth, and this was the way my day often started. It was a beautiful Southern California day, another day in paradise, as we say out here in Los Angeles. When driving down Colby, a residential street, I observed a remarkable scene. Just up ahead and over to the left a short ways on the sidewalk was a young man walking a rather large animal. A very large pig, it seemed. The pig was on a leash. I remember that detail, a long, verdant green leash. I remember blinking my eyes in disbelief. Could this really be? Surely that was some sort of dog. I drove closer. No, it wasn't. It looked like a big pig. Good Lord, it was a pig. I slowed the car and pulled over to the left, now going against traffic, but there was no traffic that day. Rolled down the window and called out, Sir, is that a real pig? The man turned, looked directly at me, paused, and then said, rather disdainfully and rather sarcastically, No, it's a fake pig. And he turned back to walking his pet. Now, this is an example of what you can read in this book. If you're desperate to believe that the government lied to you in regard to the assassination of JFK, you can feed your fantasies by reading this book. Continuing with the words of this author, he writes, "Later that afternoon, a friend told me that pigs are very intelligent and that some people kept them as pets. But for me, my initial state of disbelief has come to be a metaphor of sorts about the Zapruder film, and the fake pig has become a metaphor for various aspects of my adventures, some pertaining to optics, but many with money, over the course of some 35 years, all concerning the Zapruder film." Isn't it odd? This dude obsessed with the Zapruder film for 35 years. Although the starting point is usually some theory about Dallas, the issue inevitably comes down to dealing with those who control access to that film, the money which always changes hands in connection with the film, and the issue of greed connected with that cinematic item. The Zapruder film, as everyone knows, is a home movie of President Kennedy, his wounding, and what happened at each split second. But when it comes to discussing and illustrating any of this with the public in connection with a book, article, or documentary film, one soon finds that it comes to the issue of oink oink money, and depending on the exact purpose or use of the film, very substantial sums of money at that. And now serious issues have been raised about the authenticity of the film, and so that's probably why I think of the fake pig and the Zapruder film in the same mental picture frame. This is the kind of crap you find in this book. These are the crapologists who first muddied the water in regard to JFK, and then they moved on to 9/11. That is a look at James H. Fetzer, or however you say his name.